Today's Prismatic Warlock build will allow you to gun down your enemies in a barrage of flames as you get constant health regen, almost instant grenade uptime, and the ability to apply multiple stacking debuffs to your enemies, all with the ability to get your super back as quickly as possible. I'll show you the aspects, fragments, exotics, weapons, and mods you'll want to be using to turn yourself into a god of flame. So whether you're popping your super, transcendence, or throwing tons of abilities and utilizing your weapons, you're going to be doing some serious damage with this prismatic build. Starting with our super, we're going to be running Song of Flame, and we're not going to be popping our super a whole lot with this build. However, it is a good one to have because a lot of this build is going to be focused on the power of just having really strong ignitions. And obviously with Song of Flame, that's the name of the game, and so it's going to be a great super. It's a really powerful super. Grants a ton of benefits not only for you in terms of damage resistance, but also for your allies. Moving on to our abilities, actually for the class ability, you have a couple options here. You can do Phoenix Dive or Healing Rift. What you would choose would really depend on how you want to play. If you want to play a little bit more fast and loose, a little more on the edge, Phoenix Dive is going to be the option here. It will allow you to get your Helion a little bit more, which we'll talk about in a second. Or you can run Healing Rift if you want just a little bit more of a conservative approach to this build to really make sure you have as much health regen as possible. But overall in this build, that shouldn't really be a problem. Getting into our melee ability, we're going to be running Arcane Needle. This is mainly to get that unraveling, that additional damage. This also gives us darkness damage, which will help just with that some of that regen that we'll talk about later. And then we're rocking Storm Grenade. Again, this got a 20% buff going into this season, and this will also add an additional debuff, damaging debuff to our enemies as well. And of course, what Warlock build is not complete without Feed the Void or the ability to get Devour with any ability kill, and that's going to give us completely restore our health as well as give us grenade energy. So Feed the Void is just huge for getting that grenade uptime as high as possible. And then we got Helion. Helion is really great not only for the damage it does, it's also great for the amount of scorch it applies. You get so many ignitions running this ability. I really think it's underrated in that aspect, so definitely going to be the play here in this build. Getting into our fragments, and we're starting with Facet Dominance. So our Void Grenades weaken targets and our Arc Grenades jolt targets. The jolt is going to be great for our Storm Grenade, and the weaken is great for when we use our Freezing Singularity or our Prismatic Grenade, so that we really get the benefits of both, which I think is really unique about this subclass, which I really appreciate, and I think that's what makes this such an easy pick. Now a big one here, Facet of Ruin, increases the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increase the area effect of solar ignitions. So this is going to allow our ignitions to do as much damage as possible, have as big as area effect as possible. Just means they're going to allow us to inflict the most amount of damage to the largest amount of surface area based on choosing this fragment. Next, we have Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. This will be great as we're throwing our Arcane Needle to get that darkness debuff, and then all our other abilities between Storm Grenade and Helion are going to do additional damage because of that debuff and as it spreads to nearby enemies as we damage them. Next, we have Facet of Hope. We'll have an elemental buff. Your class ability regenerates more quickly, and so we're going to be getting lots of elemental buffs on this, and so this is going to make sure we get our class ability as quickly as possible, whether that's Phoenix Dives or Healing Rift, and allows us to get Helion as often as possible. And then lastly, Facet of Protection, and this is going to be really helpful for that higher level content to make sure that we have as much damage resistance as possible. Again, especially if you're playing a little more fast and loose with this build, you're definitely going to need this because you're going to really be in the thick of it. Even with Devour, when you're minus 20, minus 25, you just can die very, very quickly. So this one's going to be a must. For our exotic, we are going to be using Mantle of Battle Harmony. So final blows with weapons matching your equipped super damage type grant you super energy. When your super energy is full, you instead gain a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that type. And so when your super is full, you're gonna get a ×4 solar surge, which is gonna be a nice damage buff to our solar weapon. And it's really hard to talk about this exotic without talking about the other exotic we're using for this build, and that's Tommy's Matchbook. Sustained fire with this weapon overheats it, increasing damage but burning the user. And so Tommy's Matchbook is something that has always allowed you to dish out a ton of damage. However, it's been hard to use on non-solar builds because of the fact of the amount of damage you take. Seen a lot of people use it well, but now we get to use it with Devour, which is awesome. And then of course we have the Catalyst. While Ignition trigger is active, your health recovers more quickly, and Sustained fire scorches your targets. So now Tommy's Matchbook with the Catalyst is going to do that scorching, apply those scorches along with Helion to also get those additional ignitions even quicker. On top of the fact that this thing is going to be firing like crazy. And as you get kills, on top of that increased damage, you're also going to get the ×4 solar surge. So you absolutely are just going to be mowing down ads, doing tons of damage to yellow bars, and all while applying jolt, while applying unraveling. All that really stacks together to make this a really great overall damage dealing build. And then I recommend running something like Strand Fusion Rifle, or you can run the Call, which is really good, which is the new rocket assisted frame sidearm. All of these will help to just deal out that additional damage if for whatever reason you need to switch those things, but Tommy Matchbook should be more than capable. And then whatever heavy you want to use here as well, preferably a solar one. I don't have a good solar machine gun, unfortunately, which would be great with Mantle and Battle Harmony, because I'll allow you to do that additional damage, especially you get the solar surges going. And so this would be totally great. But the reason this again works so well together is because of Devour, the ability to get those ability kills, to get that Devour going and get your health back. So as you're mowing down enemies with Tommy Matchbook, your health is just bouncing right back to the top. And then because of the catalyst, it's draining, your health is draining even slower while you're doing all that increased damage on top of a solar surge, which is just absolutely nuts on this build. For our artifact, there's not a lot different here compared to past builds. Main thing would be, again, making sure we're using Elemental Siphon, Rapid Final Blows with Kinetic Weapon, or weapon matching your equipped super, create an elemental pickup that matches that super. So this is going to be great as we're getting kills with Tommy Matchbook. We're going to get those solar pickups and get those with help us with some energy regen. And then another one is Radiant Orbs. So while your solar or prismatic subclass equipped, picking up an orb power makes you radiant. We're making lots of orbs per usual, and so adding radiant on top of all these other damage buffs, the solar surge ×4, the ignition trigger on a Tommy Matchbook. I mean, all this just creates so much damage on top of the jolt, on top of the unraveling. You really are dishing a lot of damage in this build. And again, I'm gonna keep saying it, this is all without some of these last column perks that I really want and can't wait to try, that will make basically any build, I think, really that much better. And finally, we have to talk about our armor mods. For our helmet, we're going to be running Ashes to Assets. This is gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. The reason this is the choice I made here is because the kind of flow for this build is you're really going to want to lead with your lightning grenade and then follow up quickly with the arcane needle. That's going to make sure you get at least one grenade kill to trigger Devour, and then start spread, as well as with arcane needle allow you to spread that unraveling. So with that, having the Ashes to Assets is going to make sure we're getting bonus super energy on grenade kills to make sure we're getting our super back as much as possible. And a reminder that Mantle Battle Harmony also is going to help us as we get kills with our Tommy's Matchbook. That's going to help us get our super energy back very quickly. Also, going into our gloves, I just ran a couple of mods here, Focusing Strike, so we get class ability energy when you damage the powered melee attack. Since we're going to be using Arcane Needle a lot and we get those 3 charges, I feel like this is a great way to get that class ability back. Just another way to have Helion up as much as possible. And then I'm running double firepower just to give me a chance to get more orbs of power from those grenade kills as well, since that's going to really be the play starter in this build. And again, I already talked about Mantle Battle Harmony, just your typical resistance mods here for whatever content you're playing. And then for the boots, I'm running a lot of recovery stuff, Better Already, Recuperation, and Insulation. I'll just make sure that we're getting our health regen up, and then also again reducing that class ability just a little bit more. If you have a better overall stat layout than I do and you can get recovery a little bit higher while keeping your resilience high, you may not need to do that and you can swap it out for something else. And then for our bond, we're running Bomber and Outreach along with Reaper. Again, another way to get those orbs. And then again, reduces our cooldown when using our class ability. So if you're using Phoenix Dive and you're getting it quite frequently, this is going to be really nice with that ability cooldown. But again, with the Devour and everything else, you're going to be getting it back pretty quickly. Overall, I had a lot of fun using this build. Again, the main flow you're going to want to do for this build is wanting to lead with your Storm Grenade and then following that up with your Arcane Needle. And I would remind you, it's easy to get caught up with Tommy's Matchbook and just only use that. But I would remind you to not underestimate the power of Devour and how much you're going to be getting your grenades back and how fast you're going to be getting your grenades back. And just to be continuously throwing those lightning grenades as well, to continuously apply Jolt, because that all just stacks really, really well with Tommy's Matchbook. So throwing that lightning grenade, following with Arcane Needle, and then just going to town with Tommy's Matchbook, and then making sure in there somewhere you pop Phoenix Dive, so that along with Tommy's Matchbook and the Phoenix Dive, you're going to be doing tons of damage, getting tons of ignitions with those two stacking together and stacking those scorches to get those ignitions. So between the ignitions Jolt, Unraveling, and then if you pop Prismatic, you can really just go to town in terms of throwing your Singularity Grenade, your Prismatic Grenade, getting the freeze and weaken, and then also again creating those more ignitions with Helion and Tummy's Matchbook. You're just really a damage dealing machine. And then worst case scenario, you pop your super and go all crazy with Song of Flame, and then you're really cooking, and then you're gonna get that super back just as quickly because of Ash's assets along with Mantle, Battle Harmony, really just helping with that overall super regen. But give this build a try. Let me know what y'all think down below. I'm really curious to hear what some of the builds y'all are enjoying in the comments as well. It's been really cool in the last couple of videos, people coming in saying, oh, I did this same build, but with this tweak. So it's really cool to be able to hear all that and try different things. So in the comments below, let me know how you would change this one, or what's your favorite Warlock build you're rocking right now.